Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, recording in progress. And at the end, I think when everything is finished, you just have to, I think it should, there is a button save, I think, at the end, maybe. But for the moment, it is recording. So I think we just can.
Okay, so that's one thing. The other is that I guess if you can please tell all the students that are not present now that attendance and participation is vital for the course.
Yes.
Okay, it's part of the requirement of the course.
Yes.
So we should have that. But yes, I think that we should start 9:15 already. Okay, let's do it. So good evening, everyone. Good morning here. I'm in Ithaca, New York. So it's 9 a.m. I understand it's 4:15 p.m. with you. This will be our first class for the next 2 weeks discussing Israeli politics and society. I'm delighted to be here with you. This is, as you can already understand from the technological discussion, this is my first time teaching through this platform, and obviously with you students. I don't know any of you, and you don't know me. So allow me first to introduce a bit myself before we'll go to make a larger introduction of each and every one of us. I wish it wasn't just half the class, but we'll start with that. I would like to ask those of you who are not using camera to please turn it on. This is something that I think is important for us, as close as possible to in-person gathering at the university, which unfortunately we cannot make. Okay, so my name is Uriel Abulof. I'm currently here at Cornell University in Ithaca, New York. At this moment, I am completing my 3 year as a visiting professor of Israel Studies at the university. Usually, I'm an associate professor of politics, of political science at Tel Aviv University. So as you can imagine, I'm an Israeli. I'm Jewish. I've spent most of my life in Jerusalem, where I was born, and where I completed all my academic degrees, BA, MA, PhD. All of these I had at the Hebrew University of Jerusalem in international relations and Middle Eastern studies, stuff like that. After that, I went to the States. I got my postdoc Fulbright fellowship. So I went to NYU and Princeton, spent a couple of years there, then back to Israel, then back to Princeton, back to Israel, back to Princeton. And now it's Cornell University, which is a lovely university, but a bit far away from any city, which is sort of a bummer. It's 4 or 5 hours from any real hub of civilization. If you want to go to Manhattan, 5 hours. Boston, 6 hours. Toronto, 5 hours or so. But other than that, it's a lovely place, full of nature. So that helped with the coping with the pandemic, just walking around the area. I will tell you a bit more about my own research interest and what I find fascinating, how I relate to Israel later on. And that will be part of the way that we, each and every one of us, introduce ourselves. And I thought that one way to go about it, instead just going one by one and asking you all to simply state your name or your degree, etc., is that we'll already start using some of the measures, some of the vehicles, the instruments that we'll be using throughout our course. And I understand that you've already received the syllabus, right? But I will share with you the link of a Jamboard page. I don't know how many of you have had the opportunity to use that before. I guess that we chat, right? Did you all receive what I just sent you? Cool. Okay. So I imagine that many of you did not have the opportunity to use Jamboard before. It's a fairly straightforward utility run by Google. It basically allows us to share real-time many sorts of stuff, including text, media, links to websites, etc. Nothing unique, but it's a very cool, I think, visual way to share real-time stuff between us. So if you click on that, I hope all of you already did, you should be able, and I see many joined, you can see at the top bar, people joining. Please, all of you do join that page. Now, what I would like to ask you at the start of our meeting right now is to take, let's say, 4 minutes, something like that, 4 or 5 minutes. And while at it, you can have your camera on or off, that doesn't matter. And during that time, think of one image that captures Israel in your imagination. It doesn't matter what image is that, okay? One image, one visual, it could be a picture, it could be a painting, whatever you have in mind. For you, this is Israel in one way or another, right? Obviously, it's not all of Israel, but this is how you intuitively think of Israel, imagine Israel, feel Israel, okay? And as we go, just add it to the page. Below that, write your name, just your first name, okay? Once we conclude that, we'll go around, just highlighting the various images, and I will kindly ask you to tell us a bit to the whole class about yourself, a bit about yourself, and why you choose that image. Okay? Okay, so let's try it. Let's take, as I said, 4 minutes. I think it should be enough. So 4:25 your time. We'll resume, and let's see the images. Okay? I'll put one of my own. I don't have anything in mind now, but I'll think of something. Notice that you can add a text. Okay, Mona, I saw that you wrote it, which is perfectly fine. but you can also write your name, using the add the textbook.
Yes, I saw now that I can write.
Yep. And you don't have to add it to this page. As you can see, there's a way to have another page on, right? Go to the top. You can see that there is a possibility to add frames to every Jamboard.
Hi, I'm sorry to intervene right now. May I have that link again, because unexpectedly my computer shut down, so I lost it.
But that's important. So can't you see the link in the chat?
No, my computer threw me out, so it completely shut down, so I didn't have the...
I sent it again. Can you see it?
Thank you now, yes.
Okay. I see someone else joining us, right, Elena?
Yes, hi.
Hi. So just a bit of an update. I ask everyone to use the link of Jamboard that you can see in the chat window.
Just a second. No, I can't see.
You don't see a link?
No.
I'll send it again.
Right now, yes, thank you.
Okay. So please use that link in order to enter the page. Think of an image that relates to Israel in your imagination. Add it with your name, and we will go about introducing ourselves partly through that. Okay? So tell us a bit about you and then why you choose that image. Let's give it another minute or so. So just an image and your name.
Pune pe mine să fac eseuri acum.
Okay, shall we start? Let's do that. Okay. I hope that all of you already have your images, but if not, please use this time to add yours. So I'll leave mine to the last. Let's start with Bianca. Tell us a bit about you and about your image that you chose.
So, hi, I'm Bianca. I'm a student at SNSPA, the Regional Development and International Cooperation Program. My background is pretty different. I finished economics for my bachelor degree, and I've been working for the World Bank office in Romania for 4 years now in urban development. And the image that I chose is actually a news title. And I chose this image because usually in my work, we give Israel as an example on urban development and what they do on innovation and how they support entrepreneurs and city development.
I see. So are you happy about the way things are going in Israel in that aspect?
Sorry?
are you happy about the way that Israel is going about, or are you concerned?
No, I'm not concerned.
I'm a bit concerned. It is very expensive.
Okay, I was thinking about what they are doing on innovation and urban development. But yeah, it's pretty expensive. Actually, I was planning to go this weekend to Tel Aviv, but because of the COVID restrictions that they still have, I decided not to.
Yeah. I think that they
And I
are.
checked the prices for like hotels and stuff, and I saw it's pretty expensive as a tourist also.
Unbelievable. I think if you want to somehow manage a trip to Israel in that area, better to go a bit outside Tel Aviv and get Airbnb or something like that. Otherwise, it's brutal. Okay, thank you so much, Bianca. And now we'll go to Loredana. Hello.
I'm currently in the third year at the University of Bucharest. I'm studying some cultural studies about Israel. Shall I tell you why I chose this image?
Yeah.
Or
Mhm.
oh, okay. I chose an image where two people are praying right to each other. One is a Muslim, one is a Jewish. And I chose this image because Israel to me is like a place where sacred kind of dimension of life it's right next to the profane kind of dimension of life. As you can see in the image, there are some medics, paramedics, or something like that. They are doing some pragmatic job, while doing while keeping their faith, and they seem very. For me, Israel is like a place where these kind of things could happen. Two different religions living together, right to each other, doing their job, and still living peacefully.
Yeah, it's a wonderful image, right? Both of them back to back, but basically engaging in the same sort of activity, trying to reach.
Religious activity, other different ones, but it would have been more complete if it was a Christian there too, probably. Yeah.
And we can go beyond monotheistic religion, right?
Yeah.
The Buddhist or whatever. Okay, very cool. Thank you so much. And now we'll go to Mona.
Hello. I'm Mona Rigorai. I'm currently a student at Master Degree Security and Diplomacy Year 2 at SNSPA. My background is on political sciences, and I choose this image of Ben-Gurion. This is the first Israeli prime minister, and I think is an emblematic figure of Israel that I don't know, made possible the creation of Israel and this state, and we cannot imagine Israel without its legacy, I think.
Yeah, definitely. And one very important personal aspect of this legacy is indeed David Ben-Gurion, the first prime minister and almost the longest serving up until Benjamin Netanyahu. Yep. Thank you so much, Mona. And now we'll go to who has the image of Maja or Maya?
Just a second.
Okay.
It's
Hello.
Maya. Hi. Good afternoon to everyone. Yeah, my name is Maya. I'm coming from Slovenia. I'm not very related to the studies, political science, and especially not to Israel. But I was some kind of invited to this event. I heard about you, Professor, and I was curious. I'm very interested about today's elections. Maybe I will join also to the others, but my background is related to the agriculture, economics, and I choose this picture because yeah, what happens 2 years ago, I think so. It was by the Eurovision Eurosong competition, when Madonna went with the flag at the end, with the Palestinian and Israeli one, and it was quite interesting for me and also for the public around the world, and that is something.
Yeah, that the cultural dimension and the possibility of it becoming a sort of a bridge between the rival people cultures.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, very interesting. Thank you so much, Maya.
You're welcome.
And now let's go to Christina. Is Christina here? Am I missing something? I see Christina's name.
Yeah, I think she disconnected. I don't know exactly.
Do we see her now? Here, Christina is back.
Yes,
she's back. Christina?
Hello, Christina.
I'm back. I've got a few problems here with the computer and with the program. It's my first time being on WebEx.
Using it. Yeah, same here.
So I added that image because I think that's the last movie I saw. I really enjoyed it. The jokes and the dialogues in the movie was very, very funny and gave me a picture of some of the some aspects, maybe, I don't know. So I don't think that's the real image of the society, but I think that the humor in the movie was great. I think it's one of the best that I've seen in many years.
Very cool.
So so that's the main reason, and the reason why I came here. I guess what I found the poster online. I was just interested in it. I'm a student in a second year in a master's program at the University of Bucharest. And I study Islamic culture and civilization with Arabic. So let's say nothing much in common with I mainly study classical Arabic and formative years of Islam. But I was very interested in the topic of this course. So that's basically why I joined.
Excellent. Thank you so much. And now we will go to Daniel.
Yes. So the picture I chose to post on the Jamboard is a picture that actually I wanted to include in the poster of the event. I personally find it very interesting. It's a graffiti painting on a wall with a very hipsterish Theodor Herzl, looking at his smartphone, and with his very famous motto, if you really want it, it's not a dream, written besides. And I think it says very much about the Israeli society, about this mix between tradition and modernity. Israel as this place where so much technology is developed, and but still it manages to keep its traditional side, from the Jewish culture. And also the history from the beginning of the state, I think it's quite much part of the tradition. So yeah, this is the photo. This is why I chose it.
It's an excellent photo. I think you should have used that in the poster.
Yeah.
Especially as it features Herzl.
My boss didn't agree.
Wait, but tell me, what does it actually say? Im tirtzu osim po, if you will. I mean, it's not the original.
No, it's not. Yeah. It's not the original. Yeah, actually, I saw just Im tirtzu. Yes.
No, im tirtzu osim po, and then I guess there is another word. I don't know what the other word is.
I will check the full photo and I'll send it to you.
Okay, it's interesting. What is the full scale of the variation on his original thing? Okay, thank you so much, Daniel. Now we'll go to the next page. Again, if you go to Jamboard at the top, you can see that you can move from one page to the next. I think we have 3 pages that people use. So the next one is Ana Maria. Yep.
Yes, it's me. Hello, everybody. I am a PhD student first year of SNSPA University in Bucharest. My background is I have a bachelor in physics, a bachelor in computer science. Then I studied project management, so very practical, let's say lucrative type of
Important stuff.
business. Yes, preoccupations, but I am interested in this class because my sister has been living in Israel for the past 30 years, and I have a nephew that was born in Tel Aviv, and I want to study more about the culture of Israel, and the image I think is let's say a summary of the process or the phenomena of globalization and multiculturalism and the feel of cosmopolitanism. In general, and the fact that there can be peace even with different opinions, and everybody has to. I mean, in Israel, this is what for me Israel means, that there is respect for everybody, no matter the no matter their creed, their religion, and so on. There is respect, and people can learn to live together. Let's say if Israel would be a social experiment in this sense, it would be, it would show that the human race still has I don't know, a chance to survive without wars.
Interesting, very interesting. So in your mind, that image is the way Israel is, or the way Israel ought to be?
I think it's both. It's both, but I think that image means hope. For me, this is what this image means. It means hope.
Yeah, yeah, fully understand that.
Yes,
Indeed.
thank you very much.
And now to yet another Daniel. The floor is yours.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. So my name is Daniel. My background is related to political science, but currently I'm studying Israeli studies at Haifa University in the second year. Of course, that is one of the reasons for choosing this picture. But as you know, Israel is a very divided society. But Haifa, it's a good example of how different ethnic can cooperate. And I mean, for my experience in Israel, Haifa was the best city when I had the opportunity to see the cooperation between the Arabs and the Jewish Israel. So I think it's a good example of that, because most of the people emphasize here that it's a only conflict in Israel between Arabs and Jewish, but I see the different picture there.
Yeah, and it's interesting, you know, on the same page we have 2 images that are very much resonating with the same sort of message. And I think that you're right, Daniel and Anna Maria, what you mentioned before, right? It's both the way things are. You can see it, for example, in Haifa, and the way that things could be even better on a larger scale in Israel. In some ways, when I think about Israel in terms of the clashes going on within it, I have an almost sense that, you know, if we can make it there, we can perhaps make it anywhere. You know, resonating with the Frank Sinatra famous song on New York, if I can make it there, I can make it everywhere. I think if we can do it in Israel, with all the tensions, the challenges that we're facing, it opens the gate to make these sort of positive processes worldwide. Okay, let's see if we have something. Yes, we have Andrea, right?
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Andreea Smerea. I'm currently a Euronews journalist here in Romania. My background is related with international relations, and I also took a one-year MA at Rothberg International School within Hebrew University. Concerning Israel, for me, as you can see in the picture, Israel is related with its humans. In the picture is Eli Cohen. I suppose everyone knows who is Eli Cohen.
Maybe just mention a bit to those who are not familiar.
He was an Israeli spy serving for the country between 1961 and 1965. He contributed a lot in defending Israel with the intelligence provided from Syria, because he was detached in Syria. But besides Eli Cohen, which is one of the most famous spies who have been serving for Israel, there are many other names and also women, as I don't know, Shula Cohen, Sylvia Raphael maybe. And for me, this is Israel. It means people who have served and sacrificed their lives for the country, and it's the utmost someone can do for his country.
Interesting. Thank you so much. And I guess, yes, in Israel, these questions comes to fore perhaps more than many other countries, where the question of sacrifice and what it means to sacrifice for one's nation and country is really heightened, partly by the conflict, but not just that. And we'll get to that in our seminar. Okay, thank you so much. We have other images. I don't see others, but we do have other people who haven't added, right? Roberta, Elena, Dragan. Did you miss it? Do you know how to add an image?
Hello, my name is Roberta Ogaro. I haven't.
I can hardly. Can you?
Hello, can you hear me?
A bit, yes.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm here as a guest because I have some trouble connecting. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
So I'm Roberta Ogaro. I'm a second year PhD student at the SNSPA. My background is in fact in political science. Is on my bachelor degree and also on my master degree on the European and Romanian politics. But since I've worked for many years as a political science researcher, I have developed an interest for the comparative politics, and my interest for this for the Israeli politics comes from the subject of my thesis. I'm not studying the Israeli case in particular, but while I was trying to explain the Romanian electoral reforms, post-communist two major post-communist electoral reforms, I've come across with 1992 electoral reform of Israel on the elections of the prime minister. And I have studied because the professor Gideon Rahat is one of the most prominent scholars in the electoral reform. I have studied and I have read his works many times, and I'm one of his fans. And therefore, I have developed an interest for this electoral reform and to understand better generally the electoral reform. this class, this course would help me for understanding the Israeli reform.
Okay, thank you so much. I hope it will. And we'll go through the syllabus soon enough, so you will have a sense of what's to come. I think we have a couple more whom we haven't seen the image of, right? Dragan?
Yes, Professor, can you hear me?
Yes.
So my name is Uriel Dragan. I am also from Security and Diplomacy SNSPA, and I have chosen to take this course.
I'm sorry you were cut off.
Because in the do you hear me now? Can you hear me now? So I decided to take this course because in the past I have taken another course regarding Israel, limits of military power, and from that point I really love the country, and I decided to learn more about this. Also, an important image for me regarding Israel is Eli Cohen. I also seen a lot more reading that what I got in this is about how people in general have more than other people from other countries, that they really fight from their freedom, from their unity, and also it is a great culture about this country, from the religion, also from other perspectives. So in this regard, I hope to learn more about the society with this course and improve my foundation.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Do we have others who have not spoken yet? Elena, I think you. Hello?
She wrote on chat, I think.
Oh, in the chat? I didn't see
Yes.
that. Oh, now I see it. Okay. Thank you so much, Elena. You can also see what Elena wrote in the chat. Anyone else? I think the rest of us have been introducing ourselves. So I'm the last one. I simply thought it's a cool image.
And also Monica wrote something.
Monica. I didn't see Monica's writing. For whatever reason, it's hard for me to see what's going on in the chat here. Oh. Okay, thank you, Monica. I hope she will get well soon. Thank you, Monica. So I'll conclude with a bit about myself. I told you the technical stuff, right, the academic stuff. I'll speak a bit about my own interest. Overall, what I'm trying to figure out, intellectually and emotionally as well, is what makes us human. It's not really about Israel studies. I do teach a lot about Israel. I research Israel a lot. But really at the heart of what I'm trying to make sense of is us, our humanity. The key question that I've been wrestling with is what sets us apart and brings us together as humans. There are so many aspects to that question. And we'll address it when we have more time, perhaps today, but if not, starting next meeting. I'll tell you more about my taking on it. But one interesting aspect of our humanity is our search for transcendence, for something that is beyond. Now, I guess that most of you at least know about the Kinneret, right? That lake in the northern part of Israel. It's a beautiful place. It's a very nice place to be at, especially when you want to cool yourself a bit. Even during the summer, the water are hot, but they're usually not as hot as what's going on around you because it's one of the warmest places in Israel. But it's also a location where many people find sort of a break from the commotion of the world as it is, trying to reach beyond that. And the image that I've chosen is just emblematic of that effort, in this case by ultra-Orthodox. But I think this is something that many of us do share, whether we are religious or not. I myself am a secular Jew. But I think with humans, there is always that aspect of wanting to go beyond ourselves. In some ways, nations, states, civilizations are ways for us to transcend ourselves. Now, a couple of you mentioned their willingness to sacrifice for the nation. That too is an aspect of transcendence. Right? You look at the collective, at the society, at the nation, sometimes it's a tribe. And you say, this thing is beyond me. And this thing that is beyond me is so important to me individually that I'm willing to do whatever it takes to keep it going. Even if that means that I will stop going. Right? People sacrificing their life. So this is just one aspect of what I find fascinating in life. And the reason that Israel captures my imagination so much is because I sense that so many of the things that distinguishes us as human beings are taken in Israel to its extreme. Israel is a very extreme country in so many ways. Israel is unique, but not unique in being unique, right? Every country is unique. Every country is somewhat different from the next. Every society is distinctive. But certain societies takes our distinctive humanity to its edge. And I think that Israel is one such case. And I think that you will see how that sentiment resonates in our syllabus, to which I would like to turn on now. Okay? So the first question, did all of you receive the syllabus? You all have it? Okay. So maybe we should try to share screen. We'll do that for the first time here, so we'll also be able to see if it works well. Can you all see the screen? Right? Okay. So the title of our course is Israeli Society and Politics. And let me start by saying that it promises more than it can deliver. Beyond the short meeting that we have today, we just have about an hour left to our meeting today. We'll have just 4 more classes. Now, these are lengthy classes, and they are packed. There are a lot of things to accomplish in each and every one of them, but it's just 4 meetings. So we will not be able to get into the very fine details of everything that we might want to say and do when we think about Israel. So basically, it's about trying to get, as I wrote in the syllabus, a taste that is both academic, intellectual, but also experiential. And we'll get into the experiential part too. Trying to better understand what it's like to be an Israeli and what is the society and its politics like. Now, following today's discussion, we'll have 4 more meetings, each 4 hours, right? So your time, you will start 4 p.m. including 8 p.m. We'll obviously take some breaks throughout it, so don't worry, it wouldn't be consecutive 4 hours, but it's going to be intense. And I know it's a late hour for you, obviously. And you might well arrive to that hour a bit exhausted. That's understandable. Do whatever works for you, whether it's a coffee or tea with caffeine or a huge chocolate cake. But try to stay alert, and we'll try to do it ourselves, right? Keep each other alert for the 4 hours of every meeting. So have a look at the 4 themes that we will be covering. The first is the history of Zionism and of Israel. And I often entwine the two, right? Because we need the background to the establishment of Israel that you can find in Zionism. So the first meeting on Wednesday will be about the history. And we'll try to examine that through the lens of freedom and bad faith. Now, I will stop sharing for a moment just to ask you, do you have any idea what I speak about when I speak about freedom and bad faith? Anyone here has any previous knowledge about juxtaposing those two concepts? Yes, Mona.
I could see the book that is a support for the curse, and I could read that Zionism consider Israeli people as a nation, and the nation is beyond the religion, beyond the faith, because it is a political concept. Being a political concept, it has nothing to do with faith, I think.
Interesting. That's an interesting take on it. It's not exactly what I had in mind. I will tell you that in a minute, but that's a very interesting take on it. Roberta.
I haven't read the book because it was in a very short time. But if you're asking about Zionism, I believe it's a mixture between a political concept and a religious concept about the unity, as my colleague said, of the Jewish nation, and his aspiration for future let's say beyond this earth nation in heaven.
Interesting. Okay, let me tell you what I had in mind, which is a bit different. And it comes from the philosophical tradition of existentialism. Anyone heard of existentialism here? Existentialism is a philosophy which has a long lineage, right? In many ways, it goes back millennia ago. But it really became prominent in the modern time after the Second World War, and especially in France. People like Albert Camus, or Jean-Paul Sartre, Simone de Beauvoir, and others that we can name here, right? Even before that, Kierkegaard, Nietzsche, even in writing, if you think about the writing of Kafka, Franz Kafka. And the emphasis on freedom and bad faith is especially important for existentialism. And why so? Because the premise of existentialism is that we are all free. Period. All humans are free. Free in what sense? In the sense that each and every one of us always have a choice. Choice in what sense? In the sense that we can imagine things being otherwise, and we can try to pursue them. It doesn't mean that we will succeed, but we can try. So, for example, okay, think about yourself at this very moment. All of us here are participating in the first meeting of our class, right? We're part of this virtual session. We are looking at one another, at least those of us with the camera on. And for next time, I do hope that all of us will have indeed the camera on. Okay, I think it's important to try and make it as, you know, as close to the real thing as possible. Okay. So seemingly we're all doing the same thing at the basic. But we all have a choice right now. We all have a choice. For example, to stop sharing our video, right? I had a choice to do it all the time. I can also mute myself. Or I can unmute myself and show my face again. Or I can just leave the class, right? With or without goodbye, I can say, okay, arrivederci. This is a choice that I have. And it's a choice that each and every one of you have. I mean, I hope that you will stay, but you have the choice to just leave. Or do other things, right? At this very moment, you can decide that you want to, I don't know, stand on a table and start dancing. That could be very cool. Yet, when you think about it, and you have, even for a second, that moment of imagination, right? Try to imagine yourself now, instead of sitting and looking at the Zoom, standing and start dancing. Can you imagine that for a moment? If you can imagine that, you can try to do that. If you don't do that, this effectively becomes your choice. I mentioned before that what I'm most interested in is what makes us human. What I just said makes us human. As far as we know, no non-human animal has that capacity. No non-human animal has a sense of choice. Only humans have. And the thing about choice and the thing about freedom is that it's only up to us. I cannot take away your freedom. I cannot stop you from imagining certain things and trying to pursue them. I can put you in a prison cell. I can lock you up. But you can try to escape. Maybe you'll fail, but you can try to escape. So freedom always involved a sense of choice. And a belief that somehow every moment in life is a potential crossroad. Every moment that you think is a given is also a crossroad. And it is your choice whether to go that way or the other way. So what is bad faith? Bad faith is believing you have no choice. Bad faith is saying there is no alternative. Bad faith is saying I must instead of I choose. It is saying I cannot instead of I refuse. And we all do that. We all, to a certain extent, live in bad faith. We all, to a certain extent, tell ourselves a story in which, in one way or another, we think there is no choice. Maybe because there is something essentialist about the way things are in ourselves, in others, and it has to be that way. Maybe because we're fatalistic and we think there is a certain fate by the end of the road that must happen. Or maybe we're deterministic and believe that everything was preordained, whether by God or by evolution or the Big Bang or whatever that might be. So this, the existentialists call bad faith. It's basically lying to ourselves about freedom, saying that there is no choice. Now, this is part of the human condition. This interplay between freedom and bad faith in each and every one of us. But it is also a political thing. And this is what we will try to do in our next class. Okay? So you all received the very short book. Let me share that screen now. I have it open here. Share the book. Here it is. Okay, you all received that book, right? Short Introduction to Zionism. And next meeting, in 2 days from now, we will cover the history of Zionism. And I will kindly ask each and every one of you to make a brief presentation of key aspects of the history of Zionism and of Israel. Very brief. Okay? And with each presentation, to speak a bit about those aspects of freedom and bad faith. All the class will be reading, all of us, right? Will be reading the first chapter. You see the Jews, religion or nation? First chapter, and the epilogue. Okay, this is for all of us to read in 2 days. Okay? But all the other chapters in between, from the second one, Modern Jewish Nationalism, to the 10th, Transformations of Zionism, we'll have 2 students covering each chapter. And as you can see, they are very short, very, very short. Okay, about 10 pages or so. It's really not too much between 2 people reading that chapter and presenting the gist of it. Okay, so we'll go one by one. So suppose, for example, right, I don't know, our TAs, our teaching assistants, will be allocating the chapters to each and every one of you. But say, for example, that Mona and Roberta, you will be taking Modern Jewish Nationalism. Okay? So you will be in touch with each other, decide how you want to present it, and on Wednesday, you will give a couple of minutes, and I would say about 5 minutes. Not much more, a bit more, you can do it, just presenting the key arguments in that very, very short chapter. Okay? You can use PowerPoint if you want. You can do without it, your choice. And for each and every one of those chapters, we will then have a discussion of freedom and bad faith. We will present the chapter, and then we will have a brief class discussion. What are the key moments that in that period in the evolution of Zionism and of Israel meant that there is a choice? Were people aware of the choice? What did they choose? What did they choose, and why did they choose what they did? Or perhaps they went for bad faith and tell to themselves and others, actually, we have no choice. Okay? So this will be our most important move in next class. So we'll have those hours dedicated to a large extent. Not only that, we'll discuss some other parts, but we'll have a substantial discussion about the history of Zionism and of Israel. With your help, all of you, right? Those here and those who haven't attended the first meeting. So there is not a lot of reading for the whole class. As we said, it's basically just the first chapter and the latter. They are very brief. And then you will be organized in couples. And I think that we have enough students to do that from what I've heard from Daniel before. If we have 18, so we'll have 18 to cover 9 chapters, a couple for each chapter, which is relatively brief. So just read it, coordinate between yourself, be prepared to present it for about 5 minutes or so. Okay? In whatever way you seem fit. And then we'll have a class discussion after every chapter. Presentation, discussion, presentation, discussion. Okay? So this will be our first class, substantive class, next time, next Wednesday. Let's go back to the syllabus. The class after that goes to fear, or trace fears. What are the threats that Zionists and Israel identify to their project and to the very existence of the state of Israel? What are they afraid of and why? Okay, this will be the second theme. Subsequently, we'll go to figure out the legitimacy of Israel. Is Israel legitimate or not? Is the Jewish state, its very existence, justified or not? What are the reasons, the justification that Zionists and Israelis have been giving to their state? How they have evolved? And what do we make of them? This will be our third meeting, or actually our fourth, right? The third theme, but the fourth meeting. And finally, our concluding meeting would be about analyzing Israel as a very diverse and in some ways deeply divided society. One people, but perhaps many tribes. So these are the meetings that we will be having starting next time. Okay? And again, bear in mind, we will run our course as a seminar. So it will require your very active participation. I mean, there's a lot of lecturing going on right now as I'm explaining the syllabus. But I would like to see you involved and participating as much as possible throughout the course. So after that, in the syllabus, you can see the requirements, the assignments, participating, reading, all that is needed. And 2 more things. Okay? 2 more things. 3 and 4 here are very important. So beyond what we will do with the brief introduction to Zionism next time, each and every one of you, and let me stop sharing again, each and every one of you, sometimes throughout our course, will be presenting one item of reading. Okay? There will be a reading for the whole class, usually 1 article, so it's not too much. And sometimes in the course, basically in these 2 weeks, you will be giving 1 presentation. Okay? So the TAs, the teaching assistants, will be allocating reading material. After class today, I will be meeting with the TAs and we will be discussing the articles. Each and every one of you will be giving 1 article that sometimes in the next 2 weeks, you will be presenting to the class. Okay? So what does the presentation involve? It's not just sitting there speaking about it for 15, 20 minutes. This is part of it. The important aspect is to get the gist of the article, to present it to class, but also, that's vital, to lead a discussion on it. Okay? So you will not just be sitting and telling us what the authors argue. You will also think about the article. Think about questions that you can ask the whole class about it. Right? And steer a discussion on the main argument. And typically, it is the sort of, 4 or 5 leading questions. That's usually enough. Right? You don't need much more than that. Sometimes even 3 questions are enough. So think about a brief presentation of the article. A brief presentation of the article. It could be, let's say, 7 minutes or so. And then about 10 more minutes dedicated to steering a class discussion about it. No, after everything you told the class about what is the article all about, you are basically asking the class a couple of questions just to discuss those matters. Okay?
I have a question. I tried to search some articles and I couldn't download it at all. I couldn't find the possibility to download some of them, and will we have the articles sent before, or should we
So I
do
will.
it ourselves?
Thank you, Mona. So I will be discussing all of that with the TA. After class today, we'll be sitting together. We'll go through the list of articles. I imagine, Daniel, right, that you will be able to send them the articles that we will be choosing, right?
Yes.
You'll send them, yes.
Yeah. So don't worry about that aspect. I imagine that the TAs will be taking care of that. Okay, you will be giving the articles. You will be allocated. Each and every one of you will be allocated an article. By the way, as far as I'm concerned, this is up to you, Daniel. You can choose to either allow the students to switch between themselves or not. Entirely up to you. The important thing is that we'll have people presenting those articles for every one of the sessions, right? So if for good reason students cannot attend the meeting that we will be discussing a certain article, we can freely, allow a sort of an exchange between them, but we should know that for every one of the meetings, we'll have the students presenting the articles.
Professor, maybe there.
Just to yes.
No,
I'll just
maybe
complete the presentation aspect,
okay,
and then then we'll have time to discuss and Q&A. So presenting the article, leading a discussion on it, and also finally, at the end of every presentation and discussion, you will be giving 5 questions, multiple choice question to the class about what you've just been through, okay? So think about 5 questions you want to ask the whole class about that article. It should really go to the basics of what you've said, right? Because you should assume that the other students have not read the article. All they have is your presentation and the discussion. So it should be relatively simple questions to which the answer is relatively clear, okay? Keep the hard stuff for the discussion part. The 5 multiple choice questions should be fairly straightforward, okay? And then we'll spend a couple of minutes allowing all the students to answer those questions. And this is graded, okay? This is graded. So this is one important part of the assignment, right? Beyond, of course, participation and reading, which, as you saw, is not too much. There's also that part. So each and every one of you, one time. So again, it's not too much. It's one time, but still, it's an important task. Sometimes in the next 2 weeks, you will have an article to present, to discuss, and to prepare some multiple choice questions about. Okay? So that's an important, and that of course will be part of your overall grading in the course. Okay, so before we get into the next part, questions so far?
So the questions for leading the discussion around the article we're presenting are different from the multiple choice.
Right, right.
Also,
Exactly.
should we use something like a Google form or something like that to make the multiple choice?
So that I will be discussing with the TA after the class today, right? The technical aspects of it, right? I don't know exactly how this will be run, but we'll discuss it and the TA will deliver that information to you. Okay?
Great, right. Thank you.
And you are very, very accurate. The question was right on point. You can imagine the distinction between the discussion question and the multiple choice as basically being that the discussion questions are open questions. Right? I imagine that the multiple choice question would be very factual. Very factual. Things that you have conveyed in your presentations, and any students who was paying attention to what you said should be able to answer them. And again, you should presume that the students have not read those articles. All they have is the presentation and the follow-up discussion. And with the discussion, just open it up. The most important thing about the discussion part is that it will allow us to basically invigorate our imagination, right? You've presented the key arguments, again, in about 5-7 minutes. What now? Okay? How further we can take those arguments? Just try to push us to think about it in a critical way. Sometimes outside a certain box. Okay? Now I can we can discuss it with the TA. It's possible that we can have the multiple choice question after the presentation, before the discussion. But I think it's probably better to have it at the end of the discussion. We'll converse about that in December. Okay. Any more questions about that part? Any question you have? Yes, Roberta.
Can you hear me?
Yes, not too well, but we can hear you.
Not very loud, but it's okay.
I'm really sorry. I don't know what to do with my computer. My question is, should we use as a compass these keywords that you were giving to us, the choice, the fear, legitimacy? Are this like the main keywords of the courses?
For your presentations?
Yes, for the question.
No need for that. No, when you present, it's about the article that you're reading. Okay? It's not about the overall theme. I mean, you can obviously try to entwine it, but your focus is on the article itself. What are the key arguments? What are the key findings? What are the sort of things that we would like to probe and explore that results from this article? Okay? What was that sufficient, the answer?
Yes, yes.
Okay, cool. Any more questions about that part?
I have a question about the articles. I think maybe we should let the students volunteer already for the next the next meeting, because we don't want a situation where a student has to present the article and he doesn't show up. So maybe if me and Daniel will deal with this, how you said it.
It's your choice. As I said in our previous meetings, you know best because you're familiar with.
So I don't want a situation as I said. Maybe Daniel can.
Yeah, maybe we can even schedule all the presentations from now. I mean, so that everyone knows from the very
because
beginning.
we don't have the whole class.
This is also true. Yes,
we don't have the whole class, and also we should be discussing the specific articles, right?
Yes.
We should discuss the specific articles. Perhaps certain articles are better than others. We want to make sure that we have the right numbers of articles considering the right number of students. So I'm not sure it's the best time to do it now. It's really up to you. If you want to ask now, for your decision.
Okay.
I think that maybe we should wait with that. If you want me to choose, I think maybe we should wait with that. We'll have the follow-up discussion, after the class today in about half an hour. We'll go through the syllabus. We'll choose the right articles. You make sure that you have that on file, that you can send to the students. You can send an email then to all the students, see if there are any volunteers. So maybe it's a good time to ask all of you who are participating now in the class, just wait for an email that you will be receiving, I guess, in an hour after class. And if you're willing to volunteer already for Wednesday, please do that.
So maybe I will make a WhatsApp group, and I post the link in the chat and all
Excellent
the
idea.
students. Okay,
Yeah.
and we'll discuss easier the
Yeah, excellent idea. An excellent idea. Okay, so we'll do that. Look, overall, I know it sounds a bit complicated, but it's relatively very simple, and it's not too daunting. I mean, in terms of one course, that is very intense, right? Because it's only 2 weeks that we have, even less than 2 weeks. In a sense, it's just a week and a half. And, a lot of classes, long classes, and all of that. But in terms of the assignment themselves, it's really not that hard. It's basically reading one article from one class to the next, which is relatively short. And then an additional, sometimes during this 2 week, of your presentation and discussion. That's so far, at least, this is relatively straightforward. It's not that hard. And then there is another assignment, okay? There is another assignment, and I will share with you again the screen so we can discuss it. Okay, this is the Jamboard activity, okay, number 4. So you already had an experience now with Jamboard. You see how it works? It's very straightforward, right? It's really not that complicated. And then there is that part, which could be a lot of fun. What you see here is a list of names, Israeli Zionist or somehow involved, sometimes fighting against Zionism, from over the past 140 years. Most of those people, I think all of them, are already dead, right? All of them are dead. But we will be bringing them back to life, okay? We'll bring those people back to life. Imagine that each and every one of them are coming back to visit Israel today. Take, for example, David Ben-Gurion, right? We mentioned him in the Jamboard. Imagine that David Ben-Gurion, the first prime minister of Israel, is coming back to life and visits Israel today. And then the question, what happens? What happens to David Ben-Gurion? What happens to Shulamit Aloni, or to Menachem Begin, or to Yitzhak Rabin, or to Herzl? What happens then? And we'll find out. How do we find out? With your help. Okay? You will help us understand what happens when those people, those Israeli Zionists, the founders of the movement and of the state of the country, are coming back to life to see Israel as it is today. For better and for worse. And so, before each of the next 4 meetings, you will have an assignment, a very simple assignment that will keep you going about that individual. First of all, the TA will give a mate to each and every one of you, a partner. So, for example, Anna Maria, you could become Shulamit Aloni. You will be Shulamit Aloni. For the next 2 weeks, you will read about Shulamit Aloni. You will try to think about Israel as if you are Shulamit Aloni. And for every class, you will prepare something relatively brief, relatively short, that relates to one of the assignments. So, for example, next time is basically preparing a CV. Whether it's Shulamit Aloni or Herzl or Ben Gurion, whomever. A very brief CV. Right? Ben Gurion is coming back to Israel. He's searching for a job. So he opens a LinkedIn profile. You don't have to really open a LinkedIn profile, obviously. Right? Like a mock one. Put it on Jamboard. A brief CV just describing, and you don't need much. You can read a bit about him. You can go to Wikipedia. Just write the bit of it, as if it was a CV. How would Ben Gurion's CV, he's looking for a job in contemporary Israel, how that CV would look like? Write a basic CV, put it on Jamboard. With your name, okay? The next assignment, tweet your wit, okay? As if you are tweeting. Ben Gurion is tweeting these days. He's looking at contemporary Israel and he's tweeting something. And you have the full explanation in the syllabus. Okay? The next assignment, one from the heart. A visual image, like we did today. You saw how easy it is. As if it was sort of an Instagram, okay? You put your image there. Image from something that relates to Israel. And your take on it. And then the last, which is somewhat longer, you are writing a Facebook post. It's relatively long. It's a bit of a conversation between you and some of your Facebook friends about an issue that relates to Israel today. And bear in mind, throughout it, you are writing as if you are your mate, as if you are Ben Gurion, as if you are Golda Meir, as if you are Shulamit Aloni. Okay? So basically, throughout our course, you will be yourself, but you will also be another person. It's a sort of a role playing. And you will try to imagine. You know, I spoke before about what makes us human and about human imagination. We have that capacity. So let's see what happens when you become Golda Meir, when you become Herzl. Okay? Now, again, I will discuss that with the TA, but I'm open to the possibility that after they assign you with your mate, with your partner, you can change it between yourself, right? And you'll have a WhatsApp group so you can, you know, suggest who wants to be Herzl instead of me, right? Something like that. You know, go ahead and do that. That's perfectly fine. Important thing is that you'll organize relatively quickly because it's a, you know, very compacted course. Okay? Okay. So this is so far. And this is basically the course. These are the basic elements of what you have in the course. It sounds like a lot. I know it's a sort of, oh. And it's partly because the course is intense, but really, if you think about it, it's not too much. In terms of how demanding it is not really that demanding. The reading is relatively short. There is only one presentation and discussion to lead. And the Jamboard posts are, as you saw, is relatively easy to do. It's basically a task of imagination. It's reading a bit about your mate. Try to imagine how it would be like for them visiting Israel today. Okay? And you can simply do that by going to the news about Israel. Just go to the news. You know, in the last couple of days, Israel is facing another wave of terror attacks. What would Herzl say if he would be facing that? What would Golda say? What would Shulamit Aloni say? And, you know, one of the assignments is tweeting, you know, write a tweet. Okay? So have that, and you will have the opportunity, you know, in our class to simply present to us. If it is the Twitter, the tweet, for example, so you would read to us the tweet and say, okay, where this is coming from. Why do you think, for example, that Golda Meir, if she would be facing the terror attacks today, she would say, for example, that we should, I don't know, invade the Gaza Strip, or maybe assassinate the Hamas leader? Maybe no. Maybe she would say something completely different. Read a bit about Golda. Try to become Golda for those 2 weeks. And suggest how would she relate to Israel today. Okay? So that's about it. This is what we will be doing in our course. A good time to ask a question. Any question. There is no stupid question, okay? Let's be clear about that. Never hesitate about asking any questions that you have in mind, whatever it is. No questions? Are you sure? Yes, Roberta.
Throughout all these courses, they use this kind of participation assignments as a way to evaluate us and to
right. Yeah. Right. So there is no final paper for this course. Basically, as soon as you complete the course, you know, the last day of class is also the day that you have basically completed your assignment. So there is no final paper that you will be doing. As you saw, you know, there is a bit of work to do throughout the course, but by basically meeting all of those requirements, all of those assignments, you will be giving the grade. And you can see the 4 elements in the syllabus, very straightforward. You know, come to all the meetings, participate, right? The second thing, read the material. The third thing, lead your presentation and discussion. And the fourth, the Jamboard. Very straightforward elements. Each and every one of them is quite simple, not very tasking in terms of what is required. I guess that the most tasking requirement is your presentation, right? This you will have to devote more energy to, because it's not just reading an article, it's reading an article and thinking, okay, so what sort of questions, open question, can help me lead a discussion on? What are the 5 multiple choice questions that I can ask the class about? This is a bit more demanding, but not too much, I think. And importantly, you know, you have me, you have the TAs. If you have any questions, you have the WhatsApp group that will be organized. You know, ask us, okay? If there are certain things that you're not sure about, that you have difficulties with, we are here to help you with it, okay? That's important, and don't be shy about it. Promise me that? Don't be shy. Not just now, overall, throughout our meetings. Anything you have on your mind, tell us. You have a rough morning, you didn't eat, didn't sleep, tell us. Okay, any more questions?
I have one more question. Can we choose according to our interests the article we are about to present? Maybe I believe would help us to find the common background between our interests and the course better.
So I imagine that the TAs know more about those interests than I do. After today's class, we'll be meeting together. We'll decide the final articles, right? And it has to be the number of students that are in the class. So we'll have to make sure that it matches. So we'll have one article per student, okay? And we will allocate the articles. The important thing is, in regard to your question, is that I would at least like to have the possibility of you exchanging articles between yourself. That's perfectly fine. We just have to organize it beforehand, right? So, for example, if even though we had the discussion with the TA and we thought that this Roberta is a good article for you, let's look at the syllabus for a moment. Let's say that we decided that it would be interesting for you specifically to read the article about the mental cleavages of Israel politics, right? It is the very last articles.
Great,
that we
great
have
choice. Really great.
So suppose that this is the article, but suppose that you don't really like that article for whatever reason, and you think that another article that was assigned to someone else is even better. You have their contact information, you'll have the WhatsApp group, ask them. If you want to exchange, if both of you agree, that's perfectly fine, by me at least. The only important thing is that you will notify the TA. So they will always have an updated list of the presentations. That we will be sure that before every class, we'll have the right number of presentations. Okay? Okay.
So I just want to suggest something, if you allow me.
Daniel. Yeah.
Maybe if you and the assistant teacher can choose the articles, and after that to share an Excel sheet, and each of the students can access the link and choose the articles or article who wanted to present it.
It could be a perfectly
Maybe it will
good
be
idea.
easier in this way.
That what?
Maybe it will be easier in this way if
Perhaps
they
so.
can select the article.
Perhaps so. I think it's an interesting idea, perhaps a good idea, and I leave it up to the TA to decide. Okay, so if you're up for it, I'm perfectly fine. Whatever way you choose to organize it logistically is perfectly fine by me. The important thing is that we will have a complete list of students presenting according to the timeline. How to go about doing that and possibility of changing, that's perfectly fine by me. Okay? So I hope that not too long after our class today, we'll already be able to do it one way or another. Okay? We'll definitely have the complete list and the assignments, and we can run it like that. Yes, Mona.
I wanted to say why I thought on the first theme idea of bad faith and choice and so on. So I believe that it is about choosing from a nation and choosing from the religion. And the fact is that the Zionists believe that the definition of Zionism is not religion, because if it would be a religion and not a nation, the Israeli people would would be assimilated within the states of the other within the Russian Empire, within the Polish Empire, within, I don't know, the German state, and so on and so forth. And I made a link between these ideas and the title of our meeting, and this is why I believe about this.
Absolutely. And when we meet on Wednesday, this will definitely be one major way of starting our discussion, right? So again, for Wednesday,
it could be the fact that those who chose about religion were in bad faith, that we are not choosing to be a nation. We are choosing to be only being being defined by our religion and not by our nation. And the Zionist is choosing in making a choice. We want to be like this. We want to be a nation.
Yep, absolutely. And as I mentioned, this will be our first topic starting next time, right? This is the reason that I wanted to assign you with this book. It's relatively brief. It provides an overall, I mean, it's a very contentious issue, obviously. When we speak about Zionism, when you speak about Israel, almost everything that you write or you say will be contentious, will be debatable, because it's a deeply politicized theme. But I think overall, it's a good introduction to Zionism and of Israel. And yes, what we will do is go to each and every one of those chapters. The first and the last, all of us will be reading, but the chapters that you will be presenting next time, with each and every one of them, you will see there are elements of freedom and bad faith. There are elements of saying, we have a choice, this is our choice, and times when people are saying, we actually have no choice, we have to do this rather than that. And we'll go throughout it next time we meet on Wednesday. Okay? Any more questions about the syllabus so far, about the course, about other aspects that we've discussed?
How do we choose our mates in order to not fight?
Wait, who was talking now? Oh, Andrea, yes.
Andrea, yeah.
Again, can you repeat the question?
How we should choose our mates, our historical mates, in order to not fight over one person.
So what we'll do, again, the TA will assign each and every one of you with a mate, okay? But you will be able to exchange it afterwards. Or the TA may decide, as Daniel was suggesting before with the Excel, to simply first send you an Excel file and, first come, first served sort of basis. This is entirely up to you. The important thing in regard to what you ask is that you will have a possibility to change it. As long as, both you and another students agree with it, it's perfectly fine to change it. I might also, and this I will discuss with the TAs after class, I might also allow for you to suggest another mate, right? So suppose you're giving, I don't know, say that you have Golda Meir, and you want to change it with someone else, and nobody agrees. And you say, okay, but still, I really don't want to be Golda, I want to be someone else, another Israeli.
Okay, so I can choose Shimon Peres?
You can, if it's in the list and someone else already has it,
okay,
and they do not agree to exchange with you, then no. But if it's someone who is not mentioned in the list and you want to come up with that name,
he's not.
So you can discuss it, and if it's a sufficiently important and interesting Israeli figure, in most cases we will allow it. Okay?
Okay, thank you.
Okay. What else? What else do you have in mind? Again, any sort of questions that you have. It's a good time now as we're wrapping up our first meeting. Any sort of questions about the content of the course, the logistical aspects, the requirements, the assignments, You sure? No other questions? Okay, so I think that since we're almost out of time and we didn't have a break today, we can wrap it up for today. I will bid you all farewell until we meet 2 days from now. And now we'll be meeting with the TAs and all the things that we have discussed. We'll run it together now, and you will know soon enough. I hope that in an hour or so, you will get more information from the TAs. Okay? Okay. Thank you so much for the first meeting. It was lovely to meet you all. Hopefully next time we'll have all the class in full
Stop the
capacity.
recording. Stop
What?
the recording when we go out, because if we don't stop the if you don't stop the recording,
Then you can hear everything.
yes.
That could be cool. Any last question though, if anyone has? None? Okay, thank you so much. See you on Wednesday. Bye-bye.
Thank you very much. Goodbye.
Bye.
Bye-bye. We'll wait until
now we
Greg
can
and
see
Mona log out. How do we stop the recording? Just stop?
Yes.
There should be
Okay. Stop recording.